Our policy meeting. It is February 9th, and we will go ahead and get started. I want to first give our student representatives the opportunity to introduce themselves and share with us why you were interested in joining the policy committee. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sorby. It's spelled differently than it's pronounced, so it's Sorby. I'm the representative for Lower Merion High School, and I am really excited to be here because I love to create meaningful change within the student body, and I love to be a representative and connect from the school board to back to the students.
Hi, my name's Sydney. I'm the representative from Harriton High School, and I chose to join you all here today because I deeply care about my school community. I want to make sure everyone has a great, enjoyable, equal experience at their time at Harriton and everywhere in the district, and I'm all about helping however I can.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sorby and Sydney, for being here. And I expect you to show up just like the rest of the board members and fully engage and push us and challenge us and offer your brilliance to us. So thank you for being a part of our team. Okay.
Can I say something too?
Yeah.
And just like the last committee, we know you're a sophomore and junior, and we did that on purpose. So the hope is that you're with us the rest of your time in high school.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. Kicking it to you, Megan.
All right, thank you, and thank you everyone for being here this evening. And we're looking forward to our student voices, as everyone has already shared. And this is a really interactive committee, so I hope you find once you get used to the rhythms here to jump in, recognizing that the chairs here will guide us in the discussions typically. So with that, for tonight, just to go over the agenda, we have some items that we've looked at. The civility policy, we're bringing that back with some revisions. High school graduation requirements are a topic tonight and connect to some work we did in the curriculum committee. And then we have some minor, I would say minor updates to the administrative regulations, but it also is an opportunity for us to talk about what non-substantive changes look like. So it was an opportunity to do that with those particular regulations. And then as we've talked about our path forward, we are now in the, clearly in the 100 series of the policies. And for those at home, our policies, which are on our website, are broken up into series. So we have the zeros, which we've covered, and those are pretty much what are considered the board governance. I'm also giving a preview to our students so they get caught up a little bit. And then we're now in the 100s, and those policies typically center around student experiences academically. And the way that we're tackling this set of policies, we're going through and just reviewing everything, but also trying to group them so they make sense. And there might be opportunities for us to collapse some policies. The end goal, generally, when I think about the work, not only setting the sort of rules of the district, but also what makes sense for the end user. So what can students and families easily access and staff understands in terms of implementation. So I always think about those questions, so I encourage you to also think about those questions along with us. And so for tonight, under 4 discussion, we have a series of policies that I think connect to the graduation requirements and also connect to some of the conversations we had this evening in CCOB. So adoptions of course of study, course guides, et cetera. So we're trying to create some connections to our CCOB, and this made sense in terms of groupings. We don't have specific recommendations tonight, but wanted to start the conversation off with any questions or thoughts or ideas coming from both the committee and our community. So that's a rundown of the agenda. I don't know if Dr. Manelli had anything else to add for introductory comments. All right. With that, We'll start at the top. Civility. As I mentioned, we looked at this, I have looked at this a couple times. There were some suggested or recommended or asked for changes, which Ed Diazio from Whistler Pearlstein helped to incorporate. So that's what you see in front of you this evening. Anything you want to add, Ed?
No.
Okay.
Any questions from folks, or I just had one. You can jump in. Okay. Ed, I appreciate how you just stripped this out to make it in alignment with the law and freedom of speech too, and make that really crystal clear. The one paragraph or sentences I was wondering if it was necessary is this one right before the superintendent or designee, where it says board members and employees shall communicate with each other in the community in an atmosphere of professionalism and mutual respect. Is that sentence seen as separate from the paragraph 2 above, or is it redundant to that?
I think it could be viewed as redundant.
Okay.
It could probably come out. We talked about in the second paragraph taking out unnecessary language. I think the policy would remain structurally intact without it.
Great.
Because the language above covers employees and board members.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I thought that the language in the paragraph above was more inclusive to hold the standard for everyone rather than calling out board and staff and not the other folks we expect to at least be aware of and abide by the civility policy. Other folks are okay with that? Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Okay. Megan? It's more serious at night.
All right.
It's more serious at night than in the
More
morning.
serious?
At night.
It
yeah.
is, a little
Yeah,
bit.
I know.
I feel like,
I
and
miss
it's
our
not
old
Friday,
vibe, yeah.
so it's different, but
Yeah.
it's all good.
We'll try to
get
loosen
there.
it up, yeah.
Get there. So, oh, sorry.
One question. One question, we were talking over here. So if there's a violation of, like, so how would this work? If, like, what are the repercussions for it? And, you know, does it matter on that third paragraph as to who is involved in it? Does that change the repercussions for that? And how, is that laid out? Sorry.
Yeah, so there is an AR for this policy. It's not in the packet this evening. I think we may bring changes forward at a future meeting, but it does outline sort of a complaint process and whether it's a student that's raising the complaint, an adult that's raising the complaint, the step-by-step process that you would go through to resolve the issue.
I guess the question I was asking more was, you know, like, so we have in here, like, parents or guardians. I think we've talked about, like, committee meetings, so we're adding, like, committee meetings. So members of the public, how are we?
That's what Ed was saying, that in the administrative regulations, it delineates how the policy is enforced and what would be done. So we talked about, and Dr. Ranelli shared, you might recall at the first reading, that if it's things with the community, we may or may not have jurisdiction to be able to do much, and at which point we would determine, like, what gets involved with LMPD or what other recourse there is, but also being clear that the civility policy, because of the First Amendment, is sort of setting expectations, but there's not a ton of, what is that, bite for the bark or whatever. Like, there isn't, you know, a ton that will be able to outline that this would happen X, Y, or Z. Unless it's like an employee, because it would be in an employee handbook, there might be more possibility there.
And I would add, yes, and there are a few examples in the AR that outline, for example, if there was, a staff member was uncivil, what that might look like, or if a parent was uncivil, sometimes it's about, like, who they're directed to then make contact with, et cetera. So there are some examples in there, but I don't think we would be able to contemplate all of them in the AR, but we can bring that back as well for further discussion.
Sydney or Survey, do you have any questions or comments? It's okay. if not. Okay.
Well, this is an important one for our students. We had an opportunity to talk about high school graduation requirements in our curriculum meeting, specifically around personal finance, which is a new requirement. And so that gave us an opportunity to go back to this policy and make sure that it was updated to reflect those new requirements. At the same time, and this is to see if this makes sense to the committee, we aligned the formatting and the language closer to the course guide, so it wasn't like this, we're saying something in a narrative form and it looks very different in the course guide. We were trying to make it more user-friendly. So what you're seeing is what I think most families are used to looking at. So it's not like, oh, well, I think over here, like people are doing math in different places. We just tried to make it look very consistent and then add those, the new requirement, and then make a few other tweaks just again to make it, once we were in it, to make it a little more, user-friendly. But it doesn't, substantively, didn't change other than that personal finance piece.
Questions or comments from the committee? Okay.
Wonderful. Moving right along. So the next item in your packet at page 7 is the administrative regulation for purchasing, 610. And the reason we're bringing it forward and sort of out of the order of sequence is because there's items that we need to update on an annual basis. Again, while the AR does sort of call attention to the fact that we may just do that without bringing it back to the board, we wanted to make note that what gets adjusted annually are items that are based on a consumer price index. So you can see dollar figures throughout this administrative regulation as well as 621, where those numbers are updated. In addition, the change to the title business manager to chief financial officer, we made that what I would consider a non-substantive update, but again, I wanted to make sure we are all on the same page when we're talking about those types of changes. So those are the two changes that you'll see reflected in these particular regulations that have been reviewed almost annually for those items.
Any questions on this one? Okay.
Okay. Yes, yes. So, yep. Turning now to page 28 of your packet, this begins that series of curriculum-related policies. Some, you'll notice, haven't had some attention in a little while. I don't think it's uncommon, though, for some of these to remain sort of dormant. I looked at some peer districts. We're not wildly outside the range of when these types of policies get updated. And there's no urgency from the administration perspective to change anything that needs to happen tomorrow. So it gives us an opportunity to make sure that we present this, get questions answered, get your ideas or wonderings out as we look at this closely and make recommendations for changes back to you. I'll start with the Scholars Program of Studies, which is attached actually to, I think, the graduation conversation, high school graduation requirement conversation. It's an, an additional, accreditation isn't the right thing, but encouragement to take a broad program of studies beyond what the requirements are for graduation, and there's an acknowledgement of students who engage in that work is reflected in a notification on their diploma or as they graduate. I'm looking at Mr. Weinstein to see if he has anything to add, just based on the experience at the building level, what that means and what that looks like. But this has been sort of in place now, initially in 1988, and not been updated or revised much since.
Scott, what is it? Like, it seems like an amorphous.
Wondering if we updated it since we changed the weighted part? On page 29 at the bottom.
On 2015, so the last time it was revised was in 2015. And would it have been updated then to reflect that? Is that your question?
Was it updated? I guess it wasn't updated based on when it was last, so that probably needs an update.
Yeah.
Yep.
Minimally.
Wait, but let's back up, like, for real, what is it?
I'm sorry?
Like, what is a scholar's program of study? Can someone tell me what it is?
You take more than the minimum number of courses?
No. And, I familiarizing myself with the exact policy. As I'm looking at it, I do know that it needs updating. To answer your specific question with the Scholars Program of Studies, it is
Sydney or Sorby, have you heard of this?
it is not language I've used when I was principal that we talked about frequently. Yeah.
I was going to say, this seems like something that isn't widely advertised to the student population. It's like I've never heard of this before.
I just well, I don't know if anybody can answer it because we all seem pretty confused. But from my understanding, is this like solely for students who have completed, I don't know, I don't want to say rigorous or exceptional, but just like going above the minimum requirements for liberal arts courses. They're just like some sort of diploma badge to recognize those students. Is that what this is?
So,
We'll get it straightened out.
yeah.
Bring it back.
No, maybe we can bring this back next time. and-
Absolutely. That's the point of this conversation, is to say, as the board understands this, the board committee understands this,
Yeah.
what questions do you have? And maybe I've gathered that the question we may all have is the same.
And do we even need it? Like,
Correct.
Even,
Is
do we
it-
need it and also, yeah, so you'll give us an update. Yeah, Sydney?
Right, is anyone taking advantage of this program
Yeah.
too? So that would be, yeah.
I do think because like if the goal of this I don't know, program or award or whatever you want to call it is to, I guess, encourage students to excel more, then I do think that there should be either a separate award or some sort of like clause that's mentioned in this award to recognize STEM students too, because there are like a lot of high achieving students that aren't necessarily focused in their writing and history, but excel greatly in math and robotics and all of those endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. That's part of why we're having this conversation with students in the room. So I appreciate the ideas. Are we okay to move? Okay. So on page 31 is a policy 106, our adoption of courses of study. And this broadly articulates a procedure for doing so. And the related administrative regulation begins on page 33, which breaks that process down by level. It's a pretty dense policy and administrative regulation that I think there's probably some ways to update this, and I think with what we are trying to do, for example, this evening in CCOB, like break it down so that it's more accessible to families and understanding how we do the work, and still provides the right amount of guidance for staff to again, implement with fidelity. So as I said earlier, we're really looking to make sure that the community understands where we're headed in policy and not necessarily put the cart before the horse to try to make a bunch of changes. But that's what we're thinking right now in terms of it. Minimally, we want to make it a more accessible document.
Yeah, excuse me, that sounds right, and it seems that you would align this with the curriculum things we already have in place. Okay.
This whole section,
Yeah. Same with course guides, do you want to, right? Is there anything different you want to add about that, or same idea?
Same idea.
Okay.
But again, like if there's questions in the moment or wonderings like we did with the scholars policy, it's helpful to know that as we move forward, so we can get a jump on whatever committee members have as questions.
Okay. I'm also just curious, I mean, it looks like a lot of these haven't been updated in 10 or 15 years. You know, I'd also like to see what are other districts, you know, before we go through the effort of revising these, maybe they're not necessary, maybe there's like an updated version of it, maybe the law's changed. So it might be helpful to kind of see what is a comparable policy at another district or other districts, and maybe model it from then as opposed to reinventing the wheel.
And we've done that before, just as an example of just almost, I don't want to say scrapping it, but if we see a model that speaks to us and is a better way of explaining it, we don't have to go through and redline the entire thing. We'll just bring back and say, how about this? Take a look at, do we like this model? So it's, yeah, absolutely something we can do. And I'll add, as you're thinking about course guides, the final few, career and technical education, independent study, and instrumental music, within the grouping of our curriculum policies, sort of landed where, do we still need a policy like this? Could it be incorporated as an administrative regulation to one of those other, like, more overarching policies rather than having these sort of what feel like a little bit of one-offs? So that's, again, another opportunity for us to try to make more sense of the policies from a end-user standpoint.
Well, question for the course guides. Is the course guide overall something that would go through curriculum committee, something that would just come to the full board? What's the process? It looks like through these that the full board approves the course guides every year.
And I would say that my thinking of the cadence of our work is that the board is approving new courses that get incorporated into the course guide, and the course guide gets published, not necessarily with sort of a board endorsement every year, though it may say that here. I think the practice got away from a specific approval of a course guide every year because I can't explain that part.
So then one thing to potentially update in these.
Any other questions or comments or things for the team to take into consideration before they do a first round of edits?
Sorry, the only thing I would just add, I think, is that when we go back to the high school graduation requirements that we talked about, I think it references the career and technical school program, which is on page 41, right? That's the same thing. So maybe there's a way to, like you were saying before, maybe instead of having a standalone policy for the career and technical, building it into that so that it defines it and that it's clear in that, as opposed to someone having to reference a totally new policy and having to worry about keeping that up to date.
For sure, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, that, we'll have to check that out and see if we could reference it or build it in. It's an interesting process, CTE here in Montgomery County, so we're working through that as well, but if we can do that, we will.
You had something else? No, okay. Any other questions? Okay. Any comments, Amy, on these things? Okay, and we'll take comments on other topics then. Any comments on other topics? Okay.
So I have one announcement. Oh, go ahead.
Carrie Palmisano, and my apologies if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, from Marion Station. There has been state and national level momentum regarding policies prohibiting cell phone and other personal device use during school hours. Studies and real-world data show amazing benefits for staff and students in schools that have implemented such policies. Many LMSD parents would like to see a formal policy implemented in our schools. A recent petition has over 400 signatures from community members urging the board to please address this issue. Our students and teachers deserve attention to this issue to create an optimal learning environment.
So as I was,
I do actually have something to say about having a phone ban, and I think that the general student population would be very upset by this. And while it might not be the most rational, because we are teenagers and, you know, we are the newest generation, we love technology, we love being on our phones, I think that when it comes to the well-being of the students, it would make them upset, and it would probably cause them to, you know, have a petition against it and things like that. So I think that there is other ways to compromise. I think off and away is a good policy that does help, like a good learning environment, but I think an overall phone ban I don't think that it would help create the optimal school environment, because it would upset the general student population more than it would help them.
I do agree. I don't think that a total ban would run by the student population well, although the recent caddy policy, I don't know if, does LM have that? Like where you put the caddies? We have caddies at Harriton, and you know, you put your phone in the caddy at the start of class. I think that's helped a lot. I really appreciate how the teachers have grown to enforce it, and the students have grown to accept it. Like my biggest complaint is that I sometimes forget my phone in the caddy, but I do think that a lot of students and parents appreciate their children having some forms of communication on them. I do think that is a safety concern in that, but so far, the caddy policy, as far as I've seen, has worked well with the students at Harriton.
Back to the phone caddy thing. Even for the classes that I have that aren't in phone caddies, I have never really witnessed like a student just like on their phone in the middle of a teacher teaching a lesson. I think it's like a basic respect thing, and if it does become a problem, I think that is the teacher's right to take it away and things like that. So I don't think that, based on what I've seen, obviously this might be different, I haven't seen it phones being that big of an issue to the learning environment. I understand there are other things like social media and like cyberbullying, but from what I have seen, those haven't been really, really big issues, and I think that it would do more harm than good.
All right, so before the comment came in, I was just about to say, there's been a lot of discussion about district and personal devices. Get some community emails, like the community comment that we got tonight, banning cell phones, wanting to ban cell phones. I hold a Senate Bill 1014 in my hand that passed through the Senate about banning cell phones through the entire day for the entire state of Pennsylvania. But as of right now, it's district decisions. So our board meetings and our committee meetings are pretty structured to where we have, at our board meetings, we don't take comments or answer questions. We take comments, but we don't answer questions at all. And our committee meetings are pretty structured to where they stay on the agenda items and then comments about anything else. But typically, we don't get in-depth to answer questions. And the cell phone policy, which we don't have one, has not been on the agenda for us to discuss like that. So the board and the administration will have in March a community conversation regarding district and personal devices to where the community can come and have an interactive discussion to more where we can answer questions and things like that, and we can really hear more in depth of the concerns that they have. The date, the place, the time will be announced. But again, it's something that we want. And I want to really make a comment to where we're not so much fighting the community on screen time, device use, personal cell use, things like that. We are educators and we want what's best for our kids. Hearing what you had to say was really important, ladies. We really appreciate that. I'm hoping you can make this meeting because your experiences will be valuable for the community to hear. So we'll talk more about that. And I'll try to get principals at this meeting and things like that to where we can answer questions in a less formal way and we could actually have a discussion on pros and cons in both directions. So please look out for that. If it's important to you, you'll know about how, when, where, the time, things like that. Thank you.
Okay, I will also follow up just to make it clear with the community that the position of the majority of the board is that we will follow the guidance from the governor's office and the legislation. And so right now, the bill has passed the Senate, it goes through the House. And either, if it does pass, it would be implemented for school districts to have in place in school year 27-28. So just a level set for the district, that's as soon as any changes would be made in our district, as that is the position of the majority of the board to align with the legislation and have time to actively hear from parents, from students, from educators. And so then a decision can be made in alignment with the rest of the state, and that makes best sense for our community. And I just want to double down on Sydney and Survey. Your sharing is exactly right. As adults, we have no idea what is going on in the experience of kids at different perspectives unless we have direct conversations with you. And so while I understand your experiences, and there might be others, having that perspective here really helps, and I'm really grateful for you having the courage to share and just be involved in the way you have tonight.
And I know the instinct might be to inundate these two young ladies with a lot of questions now about what they experience. We're not going to do that. As I explained, this is not the venue. We'll wait for the community meeting for that.
So we have two more community comments. One is from Michelle McGill of Ballackinwood. She says, I love having student voices present at these meetings. I'm excited to hear directly about our students' experiences in our schools. They have some of the most powerful voices in our community. We also have a comment from Yair Lev of Marion Station. We are following up on months of emails and public comments and on a community petition signed by over 400 LMSD residents calling for a district-wide enforceable bell-to-bell phone and personal device policy. We address the key reasons in the petition, including learning and attention, school climate and cyberbullying, safety in emergencies, and equity. If you have not had a chance to read it yet, we respectfully ask that you do so at your earliest convenience. Bottom line, we are asking that this that this be placed on the policy committee agenda with a clear process and timeline, and that LMSD move toward adopting a bell-to-bell policy with common sense exceptions for medical needs and IEP and 504 accommodations in effect by September 2026 without waiting for Harrisburg. Thank you for your hard work.
Okay, well, Shana could have had a lot more time if she wanted, apparently. But coming up, we will be discussing the use of AI, promotion, acceleration, and retention, and then continue on with our 100 policy series. Our next meeting is March 9th, and we look forward to seeing everyone then. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.